Continuing with the review for evaluation 4, convert 9 weeks into days. So we have 9 weeks, and there are 7 days in 1 week. So this tells me I need to multiply 9 times 7 and get 63 days. Convert 1,400 pounds to tons. So I have 1,400 pounds. I write down what I have. Then I multiply by a fraction, and I want tons to be in my answer. I want to get rid of the pounds. The conversion factor is that 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. So this becomes the fraction 1,400 over 2,000. Dividing both of these by 100, I get 14 twentieths, and then dividing by 2, I get 7 tenths tons. Convert 5 2/3 yards into feet. So first change this into an improper fraction. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 2 is 17 thirds yards. And there are 3 feet in 1 yard. So now my unit is feet. 17 times 3 divided by 3, but we can shortcut this by just doing 3 divided by 3 is 1, and we get 17 feet. Convert 54 minutes to hours. So we write down what we have, 54 minutes, and there are 60 minutes in 1 hour, so we want to put the 1 hour on the top of the fraction because that's what we want. So put 60 minutes in the denominator. So we're going to end up with 54 sixtieths hours. And we want to put that into lowest terms. So divide by 6. 54 divided by 6 is 9. 60 divided by 6 is 10. So 9 tenths of an hour. Convert 4 1/4 mile or miles into feet. So first change this to an improper fraction. 4 times 4 is 16 plus 1 is 17 fourths miles times. There are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So the miles will cancel out. Now I can take 17 times 5,280, get a big number, and then divide by 4. But it's faster if I take the 5,280 and divide by 4 first, and then it'll give me an easier multiplication problem to do. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide this by 4 and this by 4. So coming over here to demonstrate the division by 4, 4 goes into 5 1 time. Subtract, bring down the 2. 4 goes into 12 3 times. Subtract, bring down the 8. 4 goes into 8 twice. Subtract, bring down the 0. 4 goes into 0, 0. So when I divide this by 4 and this by 4, this becomes 1,320. So now I need to do 1,320 times 17. And that will give me my final answer in feet. So 1,320 times 17. So this is 0. 2 times 7 is 14. Carry the 1. 3 times 7 is 21, plus the 1 is 22. 1 times 7 is 7, plus 2 is 9. Put down a 0, move into the tens column. 0 times 1 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3. And 1 times 1 is 1. And then add. 22,400 440 feet. Make sure you label your final answer with the correct units. Convert 7 pounds into ounces. There are 16 ounces in a pound. So that's what I'm going to set up. 16 ounces in 1 pound. And then that tells me I need to multiply. 7 times 16. So 6 times 7 is 42. 7 plus 4 is 11. 112 ounces. Making sure to label. Write 35% as a fraction in lowest terms. The word percent means per 100. So when you have 35%, you have 35 out of 100. Then we want to put that into lowest terms. So of course, both of these numbers would be divisible by 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7. And 100 divided by 5 is 20. Write 2% as a decimal. Well, 2% means 2 out of 100, or 2 hundredths. How do I write 2 hundredths as a decimal? It's 0.02. Now, the other way students like to think about it is just to imagine that there is a decimal point at the end of this 2, because 2 is the same as 2.0. Move the decimal 2 places to the left when converting from a percent to a decimal. So if you have 2 and you go 2 places to the left, you get 0.02. But this is why that method works, because a percent means out of 100. So 2 hundredths is 2 hundredths. So with 275%, I actually have 275 out of 100, so I have more than what's there. Move the decimal 2 places to the left. That gives me 2.75. Write 15.5% as a fraction in lowest terms. Well, once again, percent means out of 100, or per 100. So I have 15.5 out of 100. But you should never leave a decimal point inside of a fraction. So what I'm going to do is multiply by 10, and that's going to give me 155, but it wouldn't be fair or equivalent if I didn't do the same thing in the denominator. Multiply by 10, and then I need to put this into lowest terms. So I notice that these are both going to be divisible by 5, so 155 divided by 5, that's going to be 3 times 5 is 15. Bring down the 5, and then 5 goes into 5 one time. So that's 31, and then 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. So as a fraction in lowest terms, 15.5% is 31 over 200. Write 0.64 as a percent. Now, this is also read as 64 hundredths. So 64 hundredths is 64 hundredths. Well, this is 64 per 100, or 64%. So the shortcut is just to move the decimal 2 places to the right when converting a decimal into a percent. Okay, moving on to page 3. Number 21. Write 7/8 as a percent. So we're going to convert it from a fraction into a decimal, and then from a decimal into a percent. So 7/8 means 7 divided by 8. So that's what I'm going to do. 7 divided by 8. I'm going to put some zeros. You might not know how many you need right away. And then 8 goes into 70 8 times. So 8 times 8 is 64. And then subtract 70 minus 64 is 6. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 60 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract, and then I'm going to bring down another 0. 8 goes into 44. 5 times. So here's my decimal, 0.875. So I converted the fraction into a decimal. Now I want to convert it to a percent. So to convert a decimal into a percent, just move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So it's 87.5%. The next problem, find 73% of 200. The word of means to multiply. So I'm going to take 200 and multiply by 73%, which is 0.73. So 0 times 3 is 0, 0 again, and then 6, 2 times 3. Put down a 0, then do the tens column, that's 0, that's 0, and then 2 times 7 is 14, then add, and then if I have 2 numbers after the decimal point, I should have 2 numbers after the decimal point, so my answer is 146. I don't need to write 146.00. The next one, find 4.5% of 600. Once again, the word of means to multiply. So I'm going to take 600 times 4.5%. But I need to write 4.5% as a decimal. So to convert from a percent to a decimal, move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So it's 0.045. So 0 times 5, 0 times 5, and 6 times 5. Move into the tens column. 0 times 4, 0 times 4, 6 times 4 is 24. I don't need to do this one because it's all going to be 0. So 0, 0, 0, 7, 2. I have 3 numbers after the decimal point, so I should have 3 numbers after my decimal point. So basically it's 27. I don't have to write 27.000. It's the same as 27. Okay, 28 is what percent of 40? So a percent you can think of as a part divided by a whole. So I have the part, 28, divided by the whole, which is 40. So go ahead and do that. 28 divided by 40. So notice when you take the part divided by the whole, the smaller number goes inside the box here. Add some zeros. We don't maybe know how many we need yet. And since 4 goes into 28 7 times, 40 would go into 287 times. And of course it's 0, so this is just 0. So 0.70 is the decimal, but we don't want the decimal, we want the percent. So if it's 0.70 as a decimal, that means it's 70%. So if you have 28, that is 70% of 40. And the last one, 36, is 30% of what number? So in this one, we don't know the whole. We know the part, we know the percent, but we don't know the whole. So 36 is, that's where I'm going to put my equal sign, is in English means equal sign in math. 30%, which is 0.30, that's how I write it as a decimal, of means to multiply, what number? But that's what I don't know. So I can pick a variable. I'll say n. Well, if I don't know this number, then I want to solve this equation by dividing by 0.30. Okay, then you do the division. The 36 goes in the box. And now if you divide by a decimal, what you're going to have to do is move the decimal point 2 places to the right, but if you do that here, you're going to have to do that here. Okay, we're trying to keep it equivalent. So we really have 3,600 divided by 30. So 30 goes into 36 once, 1 times 30, subtract, bring down the 0, and then 30 goes into 60 twice, 2 times 30 is 60, 0, and then 30 goes into 0, 0. So my answer is 120. 36 is 30% of 120.